Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to Near Calendars franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we took on the Toronto Maple Leafs in the conference finals, and unfortunately after what was a pretty good playoff run, we ended up packing our bags and getting eliminated, which kind of sucks. And now what kind of sucks even more so is we have a lot of off-season decisions to make, a lot of tough ones, so we are going to be probably losing a little bit of our lineup going into next season just because of salary cap constraints. But you can see, pending free agent wise, we do have a lot of big guys that we need to re-sign. So first and foremost, we have RFA Bjorkstrand. At least he's an RFA, so should be able to get him on a multi-year deal. We also do have Crane, who's a pending UFA, so this is a big contract that we're going to need to dish out this offseason. Also, Eriksson's pending UFA, Leg's a pending UFA. Then we have Leahy, who's an RFA at least, so we'll be able to retain him. Kaminsky and Lindros are pending UFA, so we'll probably let him go. Osgood should make our lineup next season, so at least that's going to be an exciting thing. But aside from that, we're probably going to lose a lot of the players that were on our roster the last few seasons. But I guess it's kind of okay because there is guys in the system that could at least come up to the NHL and potentially replace players. But definitely going to be a very expensive offseason, I should say, with this roster. Like, I definitely think we're going to prioritize probably bringing back, obviously, Bjorkstrand and Crane. I'm probably going to think about letting go of Eriksson, depending on their salary cap and all that, just because he's also listed as a first liner, which doesn't really make sense with the players we have on our roster, because at the moment, he's kind of like a second/third line center. I think he could easily get replaced by somebody like Ciofito as a centerman, so we'll probably end up letting go of Eriksson potentially. We'll also potentially be letting go of Leg, because Leg is also listed as a second line forward after his 22-goal season, so despite Leg being an underrated player in the bottom six, I think we might have to let him go just because of that role, unfortunately. But like guys like Leahy easily will come back, and then Kaminsky and Lindros probably let them go because they're just depth options. Another player we might be letting go of this offseason is also backup goaltender Hainsey. He's a pending UFA. He's actually listed as a starting goaltender, so that's where I'm kind of like, maybe we just want a normal backup behind Solovyov. So I think Hainsey deserves a chance to be a starter somewhere. So we probably will end up letting go of him as well. Now, we might end up making some trades as well just to free up cap space and stuff like that at the draft. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But this team is going to look probably quite a bit different next season. But I think at least we still should have that main core intact that makes us good enough to potentially compete for a Stanley Cup. But anyways, before we get into the draft and re-sign stage, let's get your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into all those tough decisions. So the first and only comment is from Sound Taco, says the Chiefs was strong with this one. You'll need to move on from at least one, if not both, of Crane and Eriksson. Despite being a year older, I would prioritize the former to keep since he is a higher potential and overall. Consider trading Boyd if you can. Definitely keep all your first round picks and go for the top three players you pinned. And yeah, let's start with the beginning of that. So letting go of either Crane or Eriksson. I think definitely the guy to let go of is probably Eriksson. Just because if once again we look at our forwards here that are pending free agents. So let's just go actually all expiring here. You can see that Crane is obviously an 88 overall at 28. Eriksson's an 86 at 27. So they're very similar ages, and Crane's a little bit better. Now, the one thing I want to also prioritize Crane about is Crane's also proven himself to be a lot better of an offensive player so far, I think. Because if we look at Crane's career numbers, you can see 44 goals, 85 points this upcoming season, or last season, I should say. The year before that, 31 goals and 53 points. The year before that, 35 goals. So he definitely helps us out quite a bit with the goal scoring department. And I think, obviously, that at some point, if we do lose Frundell to retirement, or we decide to trade Frundell, Crane could be that guy on the top line. Also, Crane is just as effective, even maybe more effective than Eriksson is shorthanded. As you can see, 12 shorthanded goals and 20 shorthanded points in his career with us. So Crane's a big factor in a lot of areas: power play, penalty kill, and also regulation. In terms of the playoffs, he's also had some pretty solid stats. Now, if we go to somebody like Eriksson, on the other hand, Eriksson has been a little bit bouncing around. He has been getting better the last few years, as you can see, 50 point seasons, 65 points this year. Like, he could definitely break out for a really good year soon. But once again, he's not as effective, I would say, as somebody like Crane. Like, he doesn't get the power play time, really, that he deserves probably, too, with this roster. So it probably makes sense for him to go onto a team where he could actually get power play time, shorthanded time, and 5-on-5 time. Now, 65 points without any power play time is really impressive. But I think I do need that goal scoring department more than passing. So I think letting go of Eriksson's probably what we're going to end up doing in this offseason for sure. And then in terms of the next part of what Siren Talk was saying about trading away Boyd, I think that also could be a very big realistic possibility of something we do this offseason. The reason being is because we just have way too many defensemen. If we don't go to all expiring here, we look at our defensive core here. You can see going into next season, we already have Houghton and Tatar. We technically have Boyd under contract at $5.9 million for the next 3 seasons. We have Schaefer, we have Cassivi, we have Albrecht. Osgood needs to be playing in our lineup probably next season. And then we also have Nova Seltzev, who could potentially make the jump to our defensive core next season, maybe even Rudder, for instance. So getting rid of a defenseman probably makes a lot of sense. I know it does make our defensive core weaker, but it does free up those roster spaces for guys like Osgood to get in. So by moving Boyd, I think it gives a chance for Osgood at least to maybe become a decent defenseman for us. At least he's another right-handed defender too, which also does help things. So I think we're going to probably lean towards to maybe trading Boyd at the draft this year and maybe looking for a future first-round pick because he should have some pretty solid value because he is a good defenseman, but he just hasn't been as good as anticipated last year. Like, look at his offensive numbers. I know he's a DFD, but his numbers offensively are pretty lackluster. And then from a not a penalty kill, from a playoffs perspective, you can see 12 points in 50 games, plus 13, so he does play good defensively most of the time in the playoffs. Last year, he wasn't so good, so I honestly don't really know what to make of him. Like, he's good, but he's not the greatest defenseman in the world. Like, we could definitely find a replacement, I think, for him that's better defensively. Like, only a plus 15 in the regular season. Maybe he should be better than that, but we are just getting out of a rebuild, so we'll see what we were able to get for him, but likely we'll end up trading him away, I think, and that way we could get some younger defensemen in. We could always trade away the younger defenders instead, but at the same time, I don't really know. Like, I guess Osgood technically wouldn't be as good as Boyd by the time he's 26, likely, but I mean, it gives an opportunity to Cassivi to play on the top 4, which Cassivi is already listed actually now as a top 4, and then he could get more ice time on the power play and stuff like that potentially, so I think it's a way to get our defensive core more ice time, which is good. So I think we'll probably look to trade Boyd for just a future first-round pick. And like I said, we'll probably let go of a lot of guys in terms of free agency. So there's that. Also, he was mentioning about the draft class players that I pinned in the last episode. We are going to be using all 3 of our first-round picks that we have this year to grab those type of guys. I think it was, let's take a look here. Who was the guys that I was interested in? It wasn't Alexandrov. It wasn't Fedorov. It was Lindsay, I think for sure was one. Jeez, that leg was kind of sucks. Yeah, Lindsay's going to be definitely like a 7th round pick for us. Nielsen was, I think, one of the guys I was going to take. Yeah, for sure. But that 3rd first round pick, just because he's listed as a gem, medium top 6, that can't be too bad. There's also Holmstrom, who's going to be a nice defenseman. That guy also could crack our defensive core next season too. So that's where also probably getting rid of Boyd makes a lot of sense. And then there's also Erzberg, who is a medium elite 2-way defenseman as well. So gives us another defensive prospect as well for our system. And that's why it probably makes a lot of sense to get rid of somebody like Boyd. There's also Popov too. Actually, it was Popov I think I was looking at. Yeah, I think it was these 3 guys I was looking at potentially. I can't remember exactly who I was going to take. But regardless, we're going to get some pretty good players, I think, in this draft class, which should help our prospect pool quite a bit. But with that said, let's get into this draft and start by finding a way to trade away Boyd. Like I said, I don't know what I could get for him, but I'm probably going to lean towards just taking back draft capital like we did with Sal Matlainen. I think that probably makes the most sense for us. So if we go find trade at the moment, what can we get for Boyd on the trade finder? What could we get for him if we just go open block? Like, he has good trade value, but not as much as Sal Matlainen did last year. 2nd and a 3rd, Gabriel Dag in a 3rd, a 2nd in Ertl, a 2nd, a 5th in Chernek, a 1st round to 25th overall this year. I don't really want 25th this year, I don't think. I mean, I could use that actually potentially, and 24th from Vegas this year. Do I want a 4th first round pick this year? Because there was that other guy that I was interested in too. Maybe we could get all of them that way. Because if we go by pinned again, if I did trade for the 24th pick this year, I'd be able to get all 4 of these guys here. The Gem, Nielsen, we get Holmstrom, or you get Erzberg probably too. And we also get Popov. Yeah, you know what? I think we could just trade him straight up for a pick this year. I was thinking about potentially next year, but I feel like this draft class is good enough that it might make sense for us just to trade for like that 20-year-old guy basically. So let's go find trade. And I think a late first rounder is okay with me. I don't think Boyd's value is going to go much up other than this too. So it's 24th and 88. Or there's 25th and 121st. Obviously, we're going to take 24 and 88 from Vegas in that sense. So we're going to ship Boyd off to Vegas. Best of luck to him. Thank you for your time here, Boyd. And thank you for that 24th overall pick there, Vegas. Okay. Well, that will definitely free up some cap space for the offseason, which could be important. He was a quality player on this roster, but there is players that need to be reassigned this offseason. And I want to make sure that we don't end up losing out on some big guys. So that is going to be our only trade at this draft. Let's take a look at this year's top 5 and see who goes where. So Pittsburgh at 1 is going to take Petnin, who's an 83 overall medium elite sniper. Looking like this. Spinorama and also elite edges. All right. Interesting. So there's number 1. Florida at number 2 is going to take Goddard, who's an 83 overall medium elite sniper. So kind of interesting. 2 really solid players to start off this draft class. Listed as a second line forward as an 83. So that's where one thing that's a little bit worrisome is down the road. We might have 83s listed as first line forwards almost, which means a lot of the guys we have on a roster might be out of position basically down the road. But anyways, those are the top 2 picks. Nashville at 3 is going to take York, who's an 80 overall DFD. Parker York, who does have Bouncer and Relentless. Kind of weird that he has Relentless as a DFD. Like, I feel like that's kind of useless, but interesting there. Vancouver at number 4 is going to select Dansk, who's an 80 overall DFD as well. Jesper Dansk, who has Truculence. How good is his body checking? 86. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then finally, the 5th overall selection, Anaheim is going to select Yar, who's an 83 overall medium elite sniper too. So this guy could have even went first overall. Jurgen Yar. I think that's how it's pronounced, at least. Damn. That's a really good steal for 5th overall for the Ducks. Like 3 guys that literally could be top overall picks, and then these 2 guys could probably have went 4th and 5th instead, but interesting. 3 snipers, 2 DFDs. All right. Well, let's summarize to our first pick at 23, because I don't think we need to move up to get any of these guys that we want, right? Let's see. Because the first person we should be taking here is probably Holmstrom. Then we should be taking Popov. Then we should be taking Nielsen. Then we should be taking Erzberg. Likely we should be able to get all 4 of those guys in the first round. Then, like I said, probably late in the draft we should be able to get Lindsay quite easily. Yeah, I think we'll be able to get a lot of the guys we have pinned, which is kind of nice. So let's simulate to our pick at 23 and see what went before our selection, and then we'll call it timeout here, just because might as well. So there was a medium elite goalie that went 1 spot before ours. That's okay. We don't really need one. Some medium top 6s. Pretty standard draft class so far, it looks like, at this point. But obviously we're going to find all those steals. There's a medium elite power forward that went 11th. Nice little steal there for the Bruins in Ernie. Naslin's a really good overall 77 top 6 forwards, so this draft class actually could have some pretty good solid players in it. 80 overall top 6, 9th overall. God damn, Kelly Spaulding. All right, and he does have an X factor too. This could be one of the better draft classes we've seen just early on, at least. Like Kazanov, even 7th overall, is a nice little steal for the Dallas Stars. So interesting. Okay, well, let's make our selection here. And yeah, Holmstrom is going to be the selection because Garcia is listed as a bust. Rodin is a guaranteed top 6 defenseman. With Holmstrom, he's a medium 4 offensive defenseman. He's also NHL ready, so he could potentially be on our blue line next season, which means we might have more tougher decisions to make on the defensive side of things. Because if we want to get Osgood into our lineup and guys like maybe even, what's that guy in the AHL? Now I'm blanking on his name, that other Ukrainian, Russian dude, whatever his name is. I wanted to say Kazanov because of the high up pick in this year's draft, but yeah, this guy could end up competing with those guys for roster spaces. Maybe he's in the AHL full-time next year, but regardless, this guy's going to be nice. Considering right-handed defensemen kind of come at a premium, so let's take Nicholas Holmstrom with our first pick here. This would be the pick I guess we got from Vegas, or maybe it's an earlier pick because it's 23rd overall, but regardless, let's take Holmstrom and add him to our blue line. Boom. 80 overall. Wow. I was expecting him to be like a 78 and because he was NHL ready, but an 80 overall is actually quite nice. Like he's almost listed as a top 4 defenseman already. And he's already better than a lot of the defensemen on our blue line too, potentially. So that is quite the addition. Wow. Very good offensive stats. Let's remove my face so I can get like some screenshots of this. That's a huge steal. Absolutely huge. And he's got wheels too, which is even better. So Nicholas Holmstrom is looking quite fantastic. Really like that pick a lot. And this is why this draft class might be one of the better ones we've seen. I forgot that we have back-to-back selections too, so we got to be careful here that we don't waste enough time to not take the next guy. But the next guy on our list is Popov. Now, there is other options too, but these other guys are... Oh my goodness, this guy looks good too. He's also listed as an NHL-ready defenseman. Do I need another NHL-ready defender over a low elite, though? Damn, maybe I'd take this defenseman too. And then, when's my next selection here? 29th and 30th. 29th and 30th. Let me look at the draft class again here. Let's see. I could probably... maybe I could get Popov next pick. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Like, Popov is the 3-year low lead, so he's probably like a 65. I need to call a timeout again here. Because I kind of want to take that other NHL-ready defenseman. I know it's kind of weird, but we'd be getting so many defensemen in this draft class that we'd have such a hard, like... Our defensive core would be like a giant mess. We'd need to trade away more people next episode for sure if I draft Haken. It would make sense to get Popov here, but we could potentially get him with the next selection too. We don't necessarily need to draft Nielsen, but we could draft Nielsen at some point still too. And then there was also the other guy, which is this Erzberg dude, who's a 20-year-old medium elite. So, but he's also like 3 years out, was it? Yeah, 3 years out as a 20-year-old. So he's going to be a low overall, but a good potential. Trying to think. I wonder if there's a way for me to get the next pick from the Flyers. Trying to think. Wait, let me go back for a second here. So we have, what was it, 29 to 30. So with those picks, right now at least, if we go back to, what was it, draft class. Man, this is a lot more work than I thought I was going to do. But whatever. 29 and 30. I feel like Popov could still be there, but I don't know for that for sure. When's our first second round pick out of curiosity? Not for a while. What do we want to do? What could I package up to get the 25th pick even? Like, what do the Flyers want? Like, I don't know if I want to trade any roster players to get 25. I mean, I could trade always like a late second rounder as part of the deal because we aren't going to need this late second rounder. We do have multiple thirds as well. We could get rid of our own third rounder from the island, our own third rounder. I don't think that even would work. 62nd, 94. Do I have any interest in any prospects that I don't want? I could get rid of a defenseman if I'm drafting a defenseman, hypothetically. So maybe I could throw Osgood potentially into this trade now because of that. Because technically Osgood's on the outside looking in now because that defender I just drafted. You know, that actually could make sense. Could make sense. What if I get rid of that third rounder now? And the value's a little bit low, maybe. I'm going to try the second rounder in Osgood. I know I was literally just saying Osgood could be on our defensive core next season, but we literally just drafted a complete replacement for him right away. But technically we'd have 3 offensive defensemen on our blue line is the thing. That's not great. Osgood's like a DFD, isn't he? He is. Maybe I shouldn't play that offensive defenseman in the NHL next season then, because maybe that makes Cassivi available actually for that matter. Because Cassivi's listed as a top 4, and he's literally just as good. Oh man, why did it invert? Cassivi's good, but he's literally going to get replaced by that young defenseman I just drafted. And Cassivi wasn't the craziest offensively last season. 16 points. He still has the offensive tools to be really good, though. Like, he's got good passing, good offensive awareness. I feel like that's too much value now, though. Maybe not. But if I did Cassivi, and if I also went to draft picks and gave them 94. You know what? I think that's something I'm going to be leaning towards doing. I wasn't planning on trading multiple defensemen this year, but Cassivi and a third rounder to move up to the first round and grab ourselves another NHL-ready defenseman. Cassivi probably doesn't have a home here after next season just because of that offensive defenseman I just drafted. So I think I'm going to trade him away to Philadelphia. Boom. Rejected. Too far off. I'm surprised on that. What if I gave you guys instead 88? It's a little bit higher up. That's still rejected, okay. What if I gave you, I guess, 60 seconds seems too high to me. So what if I gave you 88 then, and I also gave you 158? Yeah, let's say 158. I honestly don't even know. That might be too much still, but we'll just do it anyways. Boom. There you go. Cassivi's on his way to Philadelphia. Like I said, I was not planning on trading away Craig Cassivi, but the fact that I just drafted Holmstrom, he's literally the same overall and the same handedness, and he's much younger. I think it makes sense to do that. So we do have now 3 straight picks. Let's make our next selection here. So our first one is going to be the NHL-ready defenseman. Then we're going to go pop off with the next selection. So Matty Haken, another really good defenseman. I didn't see him in last episode or else I would have pinned him. He's going to also be joining our team. Boom. 78 overall. Good damn. We might have a really good defensive core in the AHL potentially next year too. So, and he's also got an X factor. God damn, I was not expecting that. Matty Haken, he's got in reverse. So 2 really good selections here back to back for this team. And we still have more picks to go. So this is quite the first round we're turning into right now. Let's freaking go. All right, our next selection here is going to be that low lead. He's probably going to be like a 65, my guess, just because of the fact he's 3 years out. So, yeah, this is also an exciting pick for the offensive core. Obviously, we're drafting a lot of defenders in this one, but Popov could be a solid replacement for maybe a leg or something even better than that. So, Yuri Popov, welcome aboard. 66. God damn, man. That's 3 crazy good selections in a row. I got to just take a screenshot of that entire draft part right there. That's some tidy work, I think, for our roster. Obviously, we don't want to set ourselves into a rebuild, but we have a lot of guys that could end up helping us accelerate ourselves a little bit more. So Popov looks like this. Pretty good. Good passing already. All around pretty solid stats. Also, his faceoffs aren't the best. Aren't the worst, I should say. Because he is a winger, but 70 faceoffs is not bad at all. All right. So there is Yuri Popov. Pretty good 3 selections there. Now we got to assimilate to our next pick because we do have 2 more first rounders still in this draft class, which is kind of insane. So what went before our pick was Garcia, medium 9, so bad pick by Chicago. Voracek's not a great pick, and Crowder isn't either. So we're finding all the good steals, and the AI is just making some dumb mistakes as they typically do. But our next selection here is going to be between these 3 guys, and then we're probably going to take that medium elite in the first round, even though he's 20 years old. But Michael Nielsen's probably the guy just because he is a gem, and he honestly looks the best. I already drafted a lot of defensemen, so I think, yeah, I'll go for Nielsen here. Give us another left winger in case we end up losing guys down the road. So Michael Nielsen, welcome aboard. Boom. 67, pretty solid. Not the highest overall, but still looks like he could become a decent top 6 forward. For us, no X factors. He is a sniper. Good shooting categories. In general, pretty well built. So I do not mind that selection here late in the first round. Now, our last pick of this first round, because we had so many of them. Like I said, we're going to go a little bit off the board here and draft that 20-year-old medium elite defenseman as well, because we might as well. He isn't ready yet, but he should be in our AHL blue line next season potentially if we want, or we wait a year, see if he jumps up a lot in growth. But since he's 3 years out as a 20-year-old, I feel like he's going to be like a 65 medium elite. He isn't going to probably become the most elite defenseman out there, but still could be something useful for our blue line down the road. So, or a good trade bait potentially too, for that matter. So, Thomas Erzberg, welcome aboard as well. Boom. 62 overall. That's a little bit low for a 20-year-old defenseman, of course, but the fact he has medium elite potential, he is an offensive defenseman? I did not think he was an offensive defenseman. Okay. Well, that's interesting. 81 passing, 74 offensive awareness. So now we have another offensive defenseman. We have maybe too many offensive defensemen because we have 2 that we just drafted. We also do have Houghton. We got rid of Cassivi, though, so that helps a bit. We don't want to have too many offensive defensemen for sure on our blue line, though, so at some point some guys might need to get traded, but right now we are doing very, very well for ourselves in this draft class. So we drafted literally 23rd, 24, 25, 29, and 30, and we probably got the best players in this late stages of this first round, so that is very, very nice. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 53rd and see if there's anything else we could snag up in this draft class. See if we could find any other steals here, because we do still have multiple second rounders, I think, if I remember right, or maybe only just the one. Was there anybody else I pinned? I think there was, right? There's Lindsay, and there's also this elite goaltender. Well, I think we're going to take the high elite goaltender already. Yeah, we're definitely taking a high elite goalie already. We could use a goalie prospect like that maybe. So, Esteban Nicholas. Only 17 years old, but we'll take him here. Boom. 51 overall, so another nice little pickup there. This is a really good draft for us. Maybe one of the best draft classes I've had. But, yeah, this goalie is... Obviously, goalies are wild cards, but he's more athletic than he is good at, like, puck control, reflexes, that type of thing. 6'4", maybe a big goaltender, so maybe that helps out a little bit, but we'll see what he ends up developing to. Maybe he's the guy that ends up replacing Solovyov at some point. Any interesting players that went before our selection there, though, out of curiosity, that we missed out on? Andreoff would have been nice, but we don't need that many defensemen in the same draft class, right? So I'm not too worried about that. The rest of this round, a lot of top 6 forwards. All right, pretty standard late part of the draft after that. Let's see. Yeah, pretty standard. All right. Well, let's simulate to our next pick at 62nd because we do still have another second round pick. We could have taken somebody else early. Carolina's literally offering me a 4th and a 5th for a second rounder. So I guess this draft class is pretty bad, they're saying at this point. Even though there was just a medium elite goalie that just went. Interesting. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Darius Bufflin. Don't need you, probably. Ooh, low 4 offensive defenseman from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't even know how it's pronounced, but Bosnia anyways. 3 years out. That's kind of intriguing, a low 4 offensive defenseman. I know I just drafted so many defenders, but I honestly might want to take a low 4 offensive defenseman because I have seen low 4 offensive defensemen completely become really good before. So maybe Granato's the pick here. Maybe he is. This guy could be a low elite, but there's no way to tell. Justice Mitchell. I might take a chance on that low 4 that he ends up developing. But there is also some guys that could be a low elite like Kwong here. No guaranteed though. Low top 6 gem. It's a gem, but he's probably not a gem. I think I honestly might go for the low 4 offensive defenseman. There's another low 4 offensive defenseman in Bolig who is a gem. That's kind of intriguing too, but he's not supposed to go for a bit. You know what? I think I'm going to go for that defenseman I just mentioned. I think I'm going to go for Granado. Lindsay's obviously going to be one of our late picks still, but I think I'm going to go for Granado just because he's a low 4 offensive defenseman. I just feel like with his stats as well that this guy could end up becoming something decent. Like he could become like an Arena did for me in my Alien series. I think he could be decent, so let's just take another defenseman here. Boom. 63. See, that's a pretty good starting point for a guy his age. And his attributes probably are pretty good too. Yeah. Yeah, another offensive defenseman, but I mean, it's still value too. And who knows, maybe this guy becomes the best out of the offensive defensemen we drafted this year. So I don't mind it, but we've drafted literally 3 OFDs in the same draft class, which is kind of funny. All right, our next pick at 94. At this point, I don't really know if we're going to find much other than that one low elite. But we might as well see if there's anybody interesting. Maybe a medium elite goalie. I don't even feel like I need another elite goalie prospect. So there's that low elite. This guy could be a low elite. We might as well take a chance on some of these dudes too. A little bit early. Let's start by taking Lindsay. I know it's a bit early to take Lindsay probably, but we might as well start taking anybody that could be a low elite. So we are just going to start by taking the guaranteed one. in Junior Lindsay. Boom. 50 overall DFD. I mean, he's 50 overall, but it's another defenseman. We might have drafted like our entire blue line for the future in this draft class, which is kind of insane. So he's obviously a ways away, but that's okay because we don't need to rush him into the lineup at all. So interesting pick there. Let's simulate to 126 now and see if we can find any steals in this draft. I don't know if we will after this point. So if we sort by potential again here, there's probably some elite goalies. There is Weirkosh, who's kind of intriguing. 19 years old already, though, kind of sucks. I kind of want to have a good selection with every one of my picks. I don't know about that. This guy probably is a low elite based on this. So I'm going to just go with Gavin Hilbert as our next selection. We're drafting a lot of left wingers too, but it's okay. And he is a low elite, 57 overall. So we just keep finding all the low elites and medium elites and good overall players in this draft class, it seems like. He is 19 years old. 57's, I guess, an okay starting point, but the fact he's already 19, he probably won't become the most insane player in the world. All right, 2 more selections left, I think, and this is our second last one, if I'm not mistaken, because we didn't have a 4th rounder or whatever it was. Can we find any other steals? Let's see. 2 are low elite. Klingberg is supposed to get drafted, but I have drafted so many defensemen that I don't feel like I should take another, really, to be honest. I think he's probably a low elite if he's projected to actually be drafted. Should I take a chance on another right defenseman? I don't feel like I need to. That's the thing. But he could be the elite guy that I want for this part of the draft. There's also these guys that are supposed to get drafted, so maybe I should take a chance on them. But they might be medium 6s or low 6s. You know what? Let's just take Klingberg here because he could be a low elite. So boom, Magnus Klingberg, welcome aboard. Low 4. Probably our worst selection of the draft, but that's all right. That's all right. We didn't technically need another defenseman, but I wanted to see if he would be a low elite as well. And our last selection of this pretty historic draft, I would say. Let's see if we could find anything else. High AHL starter, Vladimir Vishnevsky. You know it's a high AHL starter? 2 years out on an NHL ETA. I mean, if I wanted to have a guy that's going to be a career-long AHL goaltender, this guy might be it. I don't think I've seen a high AHL starter in a draft class ever. And with those type of attributes, though, this guy's probably really good. He just doesn't have the potential. Like, he's probably like at least a 70 as a high AHL starter. So you know what? I think I might honestly take this goaltender too. Just because it's kind of neat. It's a unique pick. And we might as well take a dud of a player. Like, he could, like I said, he could end up being just an AHL career goaltender. Maybe help the team to win some Calder Cups. I don't mind that. So I think we'll take Vladimir Vishnevsky here and see how good he is, even though he is an AHL goaltender. Boom. 70 overall. That's pretty insane. 70 overall at 18. I don't think he's going to get any growth whatsoever throughout his career because of that potential. But maybe he surprises us. Maybe he surprises us. Like, that's a really solid starting overall. And, like, he's got good attributes. Like, he could even be, like, an NHL depth goalie maybe, too. So I think that's an okay pick, despite the potential. So in general, that was probably our best draft I've ever had. Maybe. Just because of the amount of great steals we've had. Like, it was definitely one of the best draft classes we've had. We had a lot of picks in that draft, though. Because we had Holmstrom, which is obviously the 80 overall top 4 defenseman. We get Haken, who was a 78 overall top 4 defenseman. Both of them could crack the lineup next season. Maybe both are in the AHL, just so we could help them grow a little bit better. Popov, 65, I think it was, or 66 overall low lead forward. That's a nice pick. Nielsen's a guaranteed top 6 forward, and he's also a gem, which is nice. Erzberg's a 20-year-old medium elite, obviously a little bit of a lower overall, like he was only a 62, I think it was, but he should still generate enough growth to be at least a top 6 defenseman. Nicholas is the high elite goaltender. Granado's a low forward and has a solid starting overall. Lindsay's a low elite. Hilbert's a low elite. Klingberg was a low 4, so not a great pick there. And then the high HL starter was a 70 overall, so I think that was definitely a really good class for us. So hopefully that one pays off and helps us win some Stanley Cups and maybe some Calder Cups too. All right, well, now comes the tough part about this episode, which is the re-sign stage. I hope that we could afford to bring back the players we want to now. We did offload a little bit of salary at that draft, so hopefully that is going to help us with things this season a bit. So first and foremost, we do need to re-sign our assistant coach, or associate coach? Yeah, associate coach. In Malachi Rizzi. Hopefully he wants to come back. We'll definitely try and persuade him with more money. So we'll see if he'll accept that type of change, which is good. Let's see. Scouts. We got a lot of scouts to bring back as well. Our scouts have been doing a pretty good job if they found all these good studs for us in this year's class. So, I mean, it was quite easy once we actually were able to tell some of these guys were that good. But let's get these scouts signed up here. And, of course, the re-sign stage, hopefully we're able to bring back guys, especially Crane, like I said, because I think I probably already have made up my mind about letting go of Eriksson, but it depends on the cap space we have left. We might not honestly need them. Now, something that I think is kind of interesting, all those offensive defensemen we drafted, maybe we could change some of them into forwards if they end up being too offensively minded. So, even though they're defenders right now, they could end up helping us out on the offensive core down the road. Like, I don't see it's a problem if we want to try and change them, so we could try and change some of them around for future years, potentially, if we have too many offensive defensemen trying to crack our blue line. Because right now, Houghton's probably the offensive defenseman I do not want to move at all. Kasivi we just moved out on, and then obviously we drafted a bunch in this year's draft class, so some of them could end up being forwards for us maybe at some point. So I don't mind those selections in that sense. I always forget that you can kind of try and change them over to a forward too, so might be something we look into. All right, is that all the scouts? Almost. Tapper, boom. There you go. That's all of our scouts back. That's a lot of scouts. The actual re-sign stage now. How much money do we got to spend? We freed up some money. We only have $33 million in cap space. Yikes. That's not a ton of money. I'm glad I freed up some money, but yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So if you look at all expiring, obviously Bjorkstrand's going to be a pending UFA if he doesn't get multiple years. He wants an 8-year deal with a full no movement clause for most of those terms. We could be able to knock him down by 2 bars. I think that's a no-brainer for us to do that. We should be able to knock him down to maybe like 9.975. That's a pretty good contract. It's not $10 million. Like, he's getting paid less than Giordano, I think. And he's getting that no movement clause as well, which is a bit worrisome, but I think that's a good deal. So we will offer this to Bjorkstrand and see if he accepts that. Crane as well needs a lot of money. He wants an extension, so this should be maybe easier. Ooh, his organizational interest dropped a lot. He wants no movement for all 8 years. Wow, okay. And we can't lower his money by that much. I feel like I'm going to get into issues with a lot of these no movement clauses that I've been giving out recently, but I might be able to talk Crane down a little bit. Eriksson, like I said, I think for sure he's probably gone. He doesn't want a clause. He actually has way more organizational interest. That's one thing that I would maybe prioritize him over Crane. But at the same time, I feel like Crane is the replacement for Frundell at some point. Let's just end up qualifying Leahy probably, right? Yeah, let's qualify Leahy for now. We will also qualify Osgood as well. We are going to let go of guys like Lindros that are just depth forwards for the time being just because it's pointless to bring them back. Same with Kaminsky. We could easily find replacements. Numelin too. Sundin's almost ready for the NHL, so I'll re-sign him. 2-way deal. We'll see if he ends up cracking our bottom 6 next season. Tulipov is an okay depth forward, but honestly, I'm going to just let him walk too for the time being. Maybe I should go to like RFAs only and stuff like that. We definitely will just give a lot of these RFAs what they're asking for. Unless they're really bad. We do need to make up some room for the AHL too. So I'm not going to sign all the UFA AHLers just yet. Amadio. We'll sign you. And Bathgate's been like a depth option. I'm not going to bring back Bathgate, I guess. Just because we might as well free up a spot for Savage here. So Savage will get signed. Seabrook is a low 6, to be honest. I'm going to let go of some of these prospects. They're not going to pan out. And they also already got replaced by guys I just drafted, to be honest, too. So, we're going to let go of all those low 6s. Do I need Rawlings back for the defensive core? I'm not too sure. We should probably bring back most of the AHL forwards, to be honest, because I think we have a lot less forwards than defenders. So we'll bring back some AHL forwards a bit. Get them signed up for a year. I am going to let go of Wilkinson because I think he's already listed as a top 6 as well. Yeah, he is, and he's already getting replaced basically, so we'll let him go. Alright, so we almost have like everybody we want to let go of already let go of. I am going to let go of Nilsson, the fringe starter. I don't think he's good enough, to be honest. Smits, do I need to bring back Smits for the AHL? Not really. I could technically run Scholes and Vishnevsky next year in the AHL. And then let go of Smits. You know what? I think that's what I'm going to lean towards doing. I'm going to let go of Smits. I'm going to release you. I might let go of Hainsey, but I think I'm going to sign the 2 young goalies for the AHL and let them do their work. I mean, one's a high fringe starter that could make the NHL. One's a high AHL starter that could end up being a depth goaltender at some point. Let's give both these guys contracts. There's also the high lead who's unsigned right now, but we might as well sign both these guys to their ELCs. I think that's an okay thing to do here. Alright, so we have our 2 AHL goalies. Hainsey's probably going to get let go of, which means Solovyov. We do need a backup for the NHL. Lannon's probably going to be that depth goaltender, but he might get let go of soon too, at some point. Yeah, I think we got to say goodbye to Hainsey just because I think he deserves a chance to be a starting goaltender somewhere. He hasn't been the most insane goaltender here either. He's only played like 2 years. Yeah, I think it's a good time to let him go and let him go sign with somebody else. So best of luck to Pedro Hainsey. So there we go on that front. And then it just comes down to these 4 guys, which Rawlings is an AHL defenseman. We might as well just bring him back. Let's go a 1-year deal and make it a max if we can. There you go. That should get him to accept. Boom. So then it's down to Leg, Eriksson, and Crane. Like I said, I don't think there's any way I could get Leg top 6 ice time next season. So I think he has to walk. Yeah, I don't think there's any way I could get him into the top 6. Because we already have Frundell. We probably will have Crane on the left side. So it's like, where do I slot him in? Honestly, I have no idea. I do really like Joshua Leg, but like I said, I think it's for the best. He's probably going to go on to be like a 30-goal scorer somewhere. But I just don't think there's any way I could slot him into our team anymore. So best of luck to Leg in free agency. Boom. So Eriksson and Crane, let's advance today and just make sure the contracts I gave out, those guys accept, especially Bjorkstrand, I guess I should say. So it looks like maybe somebody accepted. It's probably Bjorkstrand, right? I'm not too sure. But there is some morale, which is good. But yeah, we might have to make some tough decisions with money. Bjorkstrand rejected. Okay. So that's why I advanced today. Let's try and get Bjorkstrand back again. And let's lower this a bit. His organizational interest is kind of a little bit lower than anticipated, so I might not be able to get him for as cheap as I was hoping for. Let's try and get you for maybe 10.2? 10.175? 10.15? Let's go at 10.15. See if he'll accept that. Boom. So if we get him for 10, that knocks us down to 23 million. Leahy's going to cost like 2 million, 2 to 3 million, so that knocks us down to 20 million. Osgood's going to be like a cheap contract. Yeah, we will definitely have the cap space for Crane, I think, once we get Bjorkstrand signed. So let's advance and get Bjorkstrand signed up here. And he already did re-sign, so that's good news. All these scouts are also accepting, which is kind of annoying, but is what it is. And then we'll see if we can get Crane on a good little deal here. Yeah, we're down to $23 million. We should have the money to easily get Crane back. But like I said, Eriksson, I think, has to go. So we probably will let him go after we get Crane signed up. Crane's organizational interest is really low, though. It's just kind of worrisome. I don't really like that he's a full new movement clause for most of those years. But I don't know if there's any way I could not do that. Because the organizational interest probably drops off more if I get rid of the clause. So I'm going to knock him down to just over 11.4, closer to 11.5, and see if he accepts that. A lot of these deals might cap constrain us, which means we might have some very tough decisions to do in the next few years, but right now we're trying to win a Stanley Cup, and if I get rid of Frundell, that should free up cap space down the road too, so let's see if Crane will accept that. Hopefully he does. And then if that's the case, Eriksson's gone. And we probably still should have a good team next season, but looks like Crane re-signed. Nice, okay. That's good to see. It's a little bit worrisome because of the clause, but we got to do that sometimes with these type of guys. So let's say goodbye to Eriksson because we only have $13 million in cap space, and I just don't want to give him a long-term deal, I don't think so. Matthias Eriksson, when did we draft him again? 20th overall. He was like an elite steal. Didn't really become an elite player, but I think he's a decent player. We could always bring him back down the road, but right now, I just don't think there's a way I could afford him. So best of luck to him. Salute. And hopefully he has a fun time wherever he signs. All right. So with those two RFAs, we'd probably be down to, like I said, just under $10 million for free agency. So we could still sign some free agents. But let's take a look at what our team is looking like going into next season so far. So right now we still need a backup goaltender. We have our AHL's goalies. So yeah, we just need a backup goalie for the NHL. From a defensive standpoint, I don't think we even need to look at any defensemen because if I go to actually the unsigned defensemen, we are going to sign already a couple of these defenders. Holmstrom, Haken is also going to get signed. And, I mean, there is Carlton too. I forgot about Carlton I drafted last year. Carlton's pretty close to being an NHL or AHL defenseman. I could sign him, but I'm going to probably wait. Is there anybody else I would sign out of these guys? Ooh, I forgot about Ragnarsson. Yeah, Ragnarsson's definitely getting signed too for the AHL, for sure. But if we look at our defensive core, we have a logjam, and there's a lot of promising young defenders coming. So I don't think we need any defensemen in terms of free agency. We have a good 1-2 punch. We have a solid second pairing, probably of Schaefer and Holmstrom right now, it's looking like. And then Osgood might have to get traded. Or we trade away somebody that, like, Albrecht instead. Because there's a lot of competition for those top six spots. Because it's between Osgood, Albrecht, Haken, Novoseltsev. And I don't want to use any of those guys as depth defenders. So I might end up using Rutter as a depth defenseman. And then these guys... Maybe our Haken and Novoseltsev could potentially be in the AHL next year. Osgood, though, on the other hand, should probably be on a blue line next year. So, yeah, probably we'd look to maybe play some more guys in the AHL for another year, or we trade away somebody. But we don't need a defenseman, that's for sure. From an offensive standpoint, we got Niilakainen. Ellington maybe cracks the lineup as a depth forward. Sundin, same thing. We have... this is main roster. Okay, I was going to say. Oh, what else we got here? Frundell, we have Crane, Cialfido. We have Bigris, who might crack the lineup. We have Ragnarsson, who could get close. So, technically, we have like three guaranteed, 4 guaranteed. Actually, wait, 4 guaranteed, yeah. 5 maybe guaranteed. Centers, we have a lot of guys here still. 6, 7, 8, 9. We might need some more players. Koroliuk might be back up to an NHL guy again at the start of the year, but I don't think there's really too much we need. Maybe some more forwards, but is it necessary with the guys in the system coming up? Like, our bottom 6 isn't going to be as strong as prior years for sure, but maybe. I mean, we are going to have a nice young defensive core. Definitely, we need to drop some money on a backup goaltender. We do also still have unsigned, couple guys, or not unsigned, RFAs. We still have Leahy and Osgood too, so. Yeah, I don't feel like we're going to need too much, to be honest, but let's take a look at free agents anyways, just to see. We'll also take a look at the trading block, just in case we want to make some trades. Osgood takes the qualifying offer, that's good, but like I said, it is a little bit of a, logjam on defense right now. So Malachi Rizzi apparently did not accept that extension, so I do want to try and see if I could still hold on to him as an associate coach, because I'm pretty sure he was good with us, but it might be tough. There is no teams interested in him right now. But is he a good fit for us? I don't even remember. Nah, he's not really actually a good fit. Maybe we find somebody else to replace him. Maybe I'll look for Steve Graves instead. Yeah, let's go Steve Graves as the associate if he wants to be here instead. So let's try that. Winnipeg is also interested, so it might be kind of tough, but I do want to offer this contract before the end of this episode, because or else I might forget in next episode to actually sign ourselves an associate coach. So that's good. Let's take a look at, though, the free agents available just to see if there's anybody worth bringing in. Like I said, I don't feel like we need much. Maybe some bottom six forwards. Our defensive core definitely doesn't need anything. We do need a backup goalie, though. That's the number one thing. So in terms of goaltenders, there is some good goalies available that are starters. We don't need a starter, though. We need like an actual backup. Zubov? Zubov would be one of those type of guys. Stanislav Zubov, former Blue Jacket. Just posted a .914 save percentage as a starting kind of goaltender, 35 games. Had a pretty solid playoffs, too. Interesting. I know Winnipeg's a good defensive team, but that could be a good backup option. So maybe Zubov's definitely the guy to go for backups. There's other backups like that are lower end, but I think Zubov is who I would prioritize. From a defensive standpoint, like I said, we don't need defenders, but Landon Dupont is headed to free agency in this timeline. Damn. Also, Sierra, our former defenseman, is in free agency. He spent a few years in Utah, but Utah did not re-sign him. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, I don't think defense is what I need, but we'll still scroll through this just in case you guys see anything. But there's going to be some quite big competition for those those last two spots on our blue line next season. Speaking of top six defensemen, Pratt's also back in free agency. Forgot why we dealt him away. He actually played 4 games with Winnipeg this year, had an assist, but was once again a minus defenseman. Also played 3 games for them in the playoffs and had a goal. All right. Interesting. So there is that. In terms of forwards, let's take a look at what we got. Right wingers, Cole Caulfield's a free agent. Matt Maggio is back there again. It's kind of funny. Surprised Matt Maggio had such a good season last year. That's probably why he's a good overall. Left wingers. We got Sanders, 87 at 25. Damn. 87 at that. Former 5th overall pick. Damn, the Jets must be having cap constraints because a lot of the guys that I'm seeing in free agency are former Jets. So, Leg is one of the best left wingers available. It would be nice to have Leg back, but like I said, I don't think there's a way I could justify playing him in the top 6. Because there's too many other guys that should be in that top 6 instead. And in terms of centers, what we got here? Ericsson's the best. He wants $10 million for 6 years. It'll be interesting to see where he signs. Jack Hughes is available. Yeah, I don't think there's any of these guys I would bring in, potentially. All right, what about RFAs just for fun? Leahy's the only RFA center of ours. Zhurdev's an RFA. That's an 84 out of 24. Damn, that's pretty good. Not that I would qualify anybody, but Fedoruk, 89 at 24. Damn, this guy would cost like multiple first-round picks. And then goaltending-wise, Panaye and Kalinin. All right. So there's that. Let's take a look at the trading block briefly as well, just in case there's any trades to be had. Because like I said, we do have a lot of defensemen. We could make trades and get rid of some of them, but we could also just keep the blue line the same. And then some of those guys just play in the AHL next year. And then we used Rudder as probably a depth defenseman because he doesn't have much potential. Beagle's still on the block as like a bottom 6 depth forward option, which is not too bad. Right now, it's mostly picks on the block. Gabriel Dag, I guess. Don't need him because he's too good. What else we got here? Olsen is a depth forward / bottom 6 option, so K2. Fitzgerald. That's actually not that bad. He's an 80 overall. Colin Fitzgerald. That's not bad. He doesn't have good face-offs, though, for a centerman, but if we wanted to have some of our younger guys play in the AHL instead, Fitzgerald could be a good bottom 6 option, maybe. Montreal just prospects. Same with Nashville. Wagner is okay for the bottom 6. Luno and Bichelle are dropping off at this point. Brandt Clark is on the block. Still has a no-trade list, which is interesting. Philly has nothing. Pittsburgh, Connor Allen, Kovalchuk as a DFD. Yeah, I'm not seeing too much. I honestly might just have to run kind of a mix of a roster of like basically the core guys and some younger talent. I don't think that's a bad option for us to do. Cole Perfetti's on the block. Dylan Gunther's on the block, but damn, 14 no trade. Isaac Rosane with 1 year left. Some okay players, but I think I would probably bring in, or as Markkanen, who's an 80 overall defenseman, but we don't need defenders at all. One last thing I want to take a look at is the trade values on our defensive core and just on our team in general, just in case. Because we could honestly make some pretty big blockbusters. Like, we are having a lot of guys on no movement clauses now, like Mackinnon, Giordano, Crane, and also, I believe, Houghton's, starts this next season, right? No, 2 seasons from now. Okay. Yeah, but if you look at those trade values, you can see there's some good players on this team that we could trade away to free up cap space down the road. Now, if we look at our defensive core, this is where I'm talking about the logjam a bit again. A lot of these guys have good value. Erzberg has a ton of value. We just drafted him. He's already 20, but he's not going to get signed for a few years probably. Hagen's pretty much ready to jump to this defensive core. Like, we have a lot of right-handed defensemen, which is nice. Because Rudder could be a good depth defenseman. Osgood and Holmstrom probably should play. I could maybe run, honestly... I'm trying to think of what I could run this year as our defensive core. Houghton and Tatar, Schaefer, Holmstrom. I don't think that's a bad option. And then we maybe run Osgood and Albrecht. Hagen and Novoselicev go back to the AHL for a year. That might be what I do, and then Rudder could be the depth defenseman. Honestly, that might be the play. That way we get everybody ice time. That should get ice time. It's just a very big logjam, though. I don't know if it's good, though, for guys like Hagen and Novoselicev to be in the AHL next year, but it might make our defense score in the AHL a lot stronger because there is a lot of lower-end talent down there. The AHL does need more defenders, too, because right now, at the moment, they only just have Rollins, Carlson, Tuomainen. We could sign Carlton potentially as another defenseman for the AHL club, too. You know what? I think I might do that, especially if I send down Novoselicev and Hagen. That way I have those 2 guys. I have Rollins, Carlson, Tuomainen, and Carlton, and at least it's 6 defenders in the AHL. Yeah, let's go sign Carlton already. We might as well. But, yeah, the AHL does need more defensemen, so maybe that's a good play for us to do, is to just basically send those guys to the AHL for 1 more year. But they could end up being NHL defenders by the start of next season, so maybe not. I don't really even know. But, yeah, this team's going to be pretty interesting down the road. This is a really young defensive core, but it's also a very good one. Because, like, Houghton's 28, Tatar's 27, Osgood and below is all 24 and younger. Schaefer's still only 21, which is still crazy, but, yeah, this is turning out to be looking pretty nice still for the future. And like I said, we definitely need a backup goaltender. That's the number 1 thing we need to bring in next episode. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Arena Islanders Franchise Mode. So, in next episode, we'll take it to free agency. We'll sign ourselves up a backup goaltender. Aside from that, don't know if there's any much moves we can make. I think we'll probably just trust in the young guys that are coming into the lineup for the NHL next season. We'll see if our forward group is also still good enough, because we have still that main core intact. So, I think we should be good. But maybe we want to make some adjustments to it just to make sure we don't fall off too hard. Because obviously, if we make ourselves too weak, we might not make it back to the playoffs. If we make ourselves too strong, we might win the President's Trophy and be a first-round exit. So, anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.